Family nurture. Local churches should provide spiritual nurture and support for members of unbelieving families. Here's Gene.
Where does that principle come from in this Old Testament setting? Well, look carefully. 2 Kings chapter 8, verses 25 to 27, where we read about Judah's king AHAZIAH. And by the way, there was also an Israeli king named AHAZIAH. And when we started our study of 2 Kings, remember, he's the one that fell through the lattice and eventually died because of his rebellion. Well, this is another AHAZIAH, but this is on the Judah side now. In the 12th year of Israel's king Joram, son of Ahab, Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, became king of Judah. This is now going from showing the relationship between the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king and reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. Just 1 year. His mother's name was Athaliah. Okay, she shows up. Granddaughter of Israel's king Omri, and Omri, of course, goes back to being father of Ahab. So if you get all this in mind, it all makes sense. But you have to think about it in terms of the way it's expressed. He walked in the way of the house of Ahab, and he did what was evil in the Lord's sight like the house of Ahab, for he was a son-in-law to Ahab's family. Even though he's now on the Judah side, he was influenced by the northern side, Ahab, who is the king, and of course his wife, Jezebel, who then gave birth to Athaliah. So here we see the impact on the family, not just on a marital relationship like Jezebel and Ahab, but we see it on the children. And here it was Athaliah who had an influence on the whole family and on her son, who eventually became king. So we have here a very significant reality, and that's a reality that exists even today, because we have many people who come to Christ, but they come to Christ as young people, for example, or children or young people, but their parents or grandparents do not believe what they believe. And that's a difficult situation. They don't have the background spiritually. They become believers, so where are they going to find family nurture? Well, that's the beauty, because God has created a reparenting process through the Church of Jesus Christ because of our brother-sister relationship. And through the possibility as believers of being parental models, as it were, to those who haven't had parental models. The family, the blood family, no parental models. We see that illustrated here in Israel and Judah. But God enables us to be parental models as believers to those who come out of those situations. We see that in the life of Paul. We see that in the life of Timothy and Silas. When we go to 1 Thessalonians, where we have the reparenting process illustrated through these men, where Paul writes to the Thessalonians who were converted out of paganism, he says, although we could have been a burden as Christ's apostles, instead we were gentle among you as a nursing mother nurtures her own children. That's not talking about Jezebel or Athaliah. That's talking about a godly nursing mother. And here, Paul and his fellow apostles were saying we were like a nursing mother. But not just like a nursing mother. He goes on to say, as you know, like a father with his own children, we encouraged, comforted, and implored each one of you. Each one of you. And let me just make a note here that when this is translated from the English, each one of you, is redundant in the Greek text. In the Greek text, it really literally reads, each one of you one by one. It's redundant to make a point. We encouraged, comforted, implored each one of you to walk worthy of God who calls you into his own kingdom and glory. And there we have the reparenting process at work through these apostles. But we also have it illustrated in a very unique way through the whole body of Christ, the church of Christ. And that leads to the reflection and response question. In what ways can a local church become an effective spiritual family to those converts who come from non-Christian homes? And here we have a verse that we looked at a couple of weeks ago in our study from Romans 12:10. And this is a wonderful verse where Paul is writing to the whole family of God in Rome, the church of God in Rome, which applies certainly to us today. Show family affection to one another with brotherly love. Outdo one another in showing honor. That is the reparenting process that God designed. That's a wonderful corrective to what is lacking in biological families in terms of parents and grandparents. We step into that role and we show people how to love one another and to love God by showing family affection to one another with brotherly love. A powerful verse with many implications in terms of application.